the choices that we made and why we made them. So first of all, I would like to give you an introduction on atopic dermatitis and the immunotherapy, allergen-specific immunotherapy. And next to that, I want to discuss, as I said, her project. I would like to discuss the methods, the results we obtained, and which plans we made and which we can make for future research. But to be successful in this, I need your help, so your input is required. Atopic dermatitis is a pretty common disease. It's a chronic inflammatory condition affecting the skin. And it severely affects also the quality of life because it gives skin rashes like you see here, and almost always is on the extremities, so on the hands, on the ankles, on the feet, but also sometimes in the face, so it can be really annoying and affecting your quality of life. It often arises during childhood, really during the first year or even the first 5 years of life. A lot of people, babies, children, develop atopic dermatitis, and it's estimated that about 65% of the patients later on already had it in early childhood. A lot of the children grow over this. They, I think 75% of the children who develop atopic dermatitis get rid of it during their lifetime, but still some still have it during adulthood. The incidence is then pretty large in children, not that big, but still affecting a sufficient number of adults. And what is very striking is that the incidence is increasing worldwide in recent decades. It's a complex disease, so it's not one factor that causes this disease, but it's a multifactorial disease. Primarily, people think that there are skin barrier defects, so your skin is a very first-line defense protecting you against harmful substances from the environment, and people think that there is already a dysfunction of this barrier. And indeed, filaggrin gene mutations have been identified as a risk factor for developing atopic dermatitis. Secondly, also infections, bacterial infections play a role. Perhaps because the skin is not intact, they can easily enter the body and go into an immune response. And this immune response is characterized, like an allergy, with Th2 disbalance, more Th2 than Th1 relatively, and also it's IgE mediated. So in that sense, it's really an atopic disease. This is how people think it works. So in the uninvolved skin, the normal skin, is the epidermis of the Langerhans cells. These are dendritic cells which control the surrounding. They try to take up substances from the environment and tolerize the immune system to these substances if they are not harmful. There are mast cells coated with IgE, but they don't do anything. T cells are always also present in the skin, also in the non-infected, non-inflamed skin. And the idea is that these immune cells patrol constantly and tolerize the system so that no response is induced. This is the normal situation. However, in atopic dermatitis, in the acute phase, there is Langerhans cells presenting antigens to T helper cells in the presence of cytokines released, for example, from mast cells, IL-4, they differentiate in Th2 cells, producing more Th2 factors like IL-4, IL-13, IL-5. And what is also happening is because of this response and production of inflammatory cytokines, there is upregulation of adhesion molecules on the blood vessel, and attracting more cells into this site. What is really characteristic on these T cells in the skin is that they express the chemokine receptor CLA, and therefore they are called CLA positive cells. And these really home to the tissue, to the skin. So almost all cells, all T cells here in the skin are Cla positive because they home to the skin. This is the acute phase, and then because it's itchy, people start scratching, and perhaps this skin barrier is not intact because of genetic, for example, predisposition. It gets worse, it gets inflamed, and now also Th1 cytokines are released. Inflammatory dendritic cells are attracted, more and more immune cells are attracted from the blood into the skin, and this situation then creates a Th1-like situation. So acutely there is a Th2 response, but later on in the chronic phase it becomes more a Th1 disease, chronic Th1 inflammation. So if you have a look at the immune system and atopic dermatitis, you can see well that it is clearly an invasion of T cells. There are more T cells than in the healthy skin, in the lesions at least. In the acute phase, we have Th2 cytokines, and that is merely demonstrated with RNA and qPCR analysis, demonstrating that IL-4, 5, and 13 transcripts are increased in these lesions. In the chronic phase, so later on, it appears that there is more Th0, Th1-like responses characterized by RNA coding for Th1 cytokines like interferon, gamma, IL-12. IL-5 is a bit strange because that's more Th2 cytokine. And people also think that Tregs are involved because when you see patients with the FOXP3 mutation, they often have hyper IgE syndrome, and this is also going together with dermatitis or skin lesions. With respect to the therapy for atopic dermatitis, that's very clear. Of course, you can apply a local therapy just on lesion, and you can also use parenteral therapies. The first thing which you have to do is support your skin barrier, and that you can do by moisturizing your skin, so with moisturizer. If there are bacteria contributing, if you can find them in the lesion, it's also good to start antibiotic cure to control this bacterial colonization. And of course, if there is a clear anti-inflammatory response, you can target this with an anti-inflammatory approach, like the use of glucocorticosteroids or calcineurin inhibitors. In this way, inhibiting especially the T cell response. But, of course, this does not cure the disease. So if you want to get rid of your atopic dermatitis, you have to modulate your immune system in a way. And this is the idea with immunotherapy, that you kind of vaccinate with the allergen which is responsible for atopic dermatitis, and then the idea is that you modify your immune response so that you don't get IgE, you don't get this Th2 disbalance, and in this way you get rid of the symptoms which are really annoying and causing this swelling and itchy skin. Immunotherapy is the only therapy which is specific, which can be applied for allergic diseases which is specific. It has been mainly used for asthma and hay fever, and for example for also for venom stings. And most often then to prevent these anaphylactic shocks. But in recent years there is also some studies performed in atopic dermatitis. But here, of course, the most important drawback is that you don't know the antigen, the allergen, which you have to use then for de-immunization. Based on clinical data, these trials seem to be very supportive of the effect of immunotherapy in atopic dermatitis. So the results are encouraging. What does this therapy then do? Well, this is not completely clear, but people speculate that you shift the immune response from Th2 to Th1. In line with this, you get away from the IgE and you get a more non-allergic response, IgG4, which can then compete with the IgE for binding the allergen, and this IgG4 does not cause the symptoms which are caused by IgE, of course. What people also think is that this immunotherapy for allergy induces the production of anti-inflammatory or regulatory cytokines like TGF-beta or IL-10, and that regulatory T cells do their job better. So they are then able to suppress these responses which are unwanted and undesired. This is put into a scheme here. So there is a Th2 response in atopic dermatitis having an effect on epithelial cells, tissue remodeling of eosinophils. Also B cells produce IgE, and it's thought that regulatory T cells are induced by this allergen-specific immunotherapy, and these are really central in modulating the response. They can inhibit the Th2, but also other affected T cells. They can inhibit B cells and also cause them to switch to IgG4. They can also suppress the PCs, the basophils. So they suppress a lot of the unwanted responses in the tissue, and in addition, you get a switch from IgE to IgG4, for example. So this technique is pretty successful in asthma and then hay fever and venom stings. Like I said, I think that about 70% of the subjects where it is applied, it is efficient, and this long-termly efficient. So also long-term, you see these responses are not present or less present. And but still, people want to optimize, of course, this technique, and there are some ways you can do this. You can try to change the allergen, so remove, for example, the B cell epitope, which induces these IgE responses, so that you get rid of these IgE B cell responses. But you can also add T cell epitopes, so that you can switch the response to, for example, a more Th1 response. That you can also do by adding adjuvants, which have the potency, different adjuvants to drive the response into a different direction. So with playing around with the adjuvant in combination with the allergen vaccination, you can modify the response more in the direction which you like. Then one of the first questions is, if you apply immunotherapy in atopic dermatitis, how would you measure the effects of this therapy? What would you look at? You can shout now.
The type of T cell in the skin.
The what?
The type of T cell in the skin.
In the skin. Cytokines.
Immunoglobulin.
Specific IgE. Yeah, these things are indeed all immunological things you can look at. And that's indeed IgE specific against the antigen which you use for vaccination, which cytokines are present, which Th cells are present. But at the patient level, what's more evident to look at whether your vaccination was effective? Lesions, size, lesions occurring, because it's a relapsing disease, so you don't have these skin lesions all the time. They are there and then they disappear again and they appear again, so you have relapses and you have a remission phase, so that's what you could look at. Other things? So most often the efficiency of this effect of these therapies are measured by looking at the Z-score, the SCORAT, that is for atopic dermatitis. You can also look at how much medication should the patient still use. Is that reduced with the use of immune vaccination? And of course, what you said, you can look at blood levels of markers of disease, markers of inflammation, like specific IgE. You can also look at get a medication but it's not the effective one, but still this has effects on how people experience their disease and how the disease manifests. But more important than these things, and this is the standard outcome, is what happens in the skin. So really looking into these lesions, is there something going on? Is it different than before therapy? And what is the effect of this immunotherapy? So in short, it's atopic dermatitis is a chronic disease. Involves Th2 in acute phase, but certainly also Th1 responses. Patients with this disease may benefit from allergen-specific immunotherapy, but which mechanisms are lying underneath this effect are not really clear. T-cell subpopulations in the skin have not been studied in detail yet. And if you have an idea how SIT works, you can apply this to modify your allergen of adjuvants in addition to obtain these results you want. So in this project from Jacqueline, she had two big aims. She wanted to analyze the skin T-cell populations in atopic dermatitis patients, because this has not been done before. And secondly, what happens with these T-cell populations if you apply specific immunotherapy in atopic dermatitis? And if you see what is going on and you know what you want, you can modify your immunotherapy to go more in the direction you want. With respect to the skin immune system, it's very fascinating because there are a lot of T cells in the skin and they are all CLA positive. And we call them skin resident T cells, but they do not reside all the time in the skin. But if you investigate it, 98% of all these CLA positive cells are indeed in the skin at a certain moment. But the questions which we have is, how does this CD4-CD8 ratio look like in the skin? Is it different from what we see in the gut? How is the contribution of T helper cell subsets in the skin? And how does this relate to the blood? What happens in atopic skin? And what is the response to immunotherapy? So, what would you do if you had to look at T cells in the skin? So how would you demonstrate T cells in the skin, and how can you differentiate them? Who has an idea? Because it's pretty much difficult, more difficult than, of course, taking blood. Now, which techniques can you apply to look at skin T cells? Stain by?
Yeah, by the receptor.
But on tissue then?
Yeah.
Yeah, tissue staining, immunohistochemical staining. Advantages? Do you know that?
It's relatively easy.
It's pretty easy. But what is an important drawback of immunostainings?
Yeah, dead tissue.
Yeah, yeah, but
You cannot use it for other studies.
what?
If you already use it, we have said it in studies. You cannot use it for other studies.
Yeah, yeah. If you indeed use this tissue for staining, you can't, in addition, for example, isolate RNA or what you want. But what is also an important drawback of immunostainings in the tissue?
It's also only a small piece of what the whole tissue represents.
Yeah, so it's very difficult. Yeah, the tissue is very heterogeneous, and if you have a look here or here, it can make a world of difference. It can be a completely different picture, so that's dangerous. But a very important drawback is also with this immunostainings that you can't do a lot of markers at the same time. So if you want to stain, for example, a Treg, you would like to stain CD4, CD25, 127, or FOXP3, but that's very difficult to combine more markers in an immunohistochemical staining tissue. Another technique which you can apply. flow cytometry, and then just how would you then do it? Okay, yeah, you can take a biopsy from the lesion, and how do you put that then to the machine? Because this machine measures single cells. Yeah. Yeah, indeed. So a very nice method is indeed to take a biopsy, homogenize the tissue, and see to it that you have single cells, and then you can run effects analysis with up to 8 stainings per cell. So then you can have differentiation between cells. That's a nice approach. Still other techniques? Yeah. What do you say? Yeah. Yeah, but that's like the immunohistochemical staining, so you can do it through fluorescence. Yeah, you can use indeed different fluorescent markers to stain a tissue, but then still you don't get much further than 3 control stainings. So that's still the question whether you can really discriminate between different T cell subpopulations. But it is a technique indeed that you can use. Still other ideas? Not at the protein level or the cell level. But it's very easy, but a bit further away from reality probably. You can also do RNA analysis, of course. You can also take tissue, isolate RNA from it, and do a quantitative PCR. So this we discussed immunohistochemistry. You can do it fluorescently or with the normal stainings. You can take skin biopsy, colonize it, or homobilize it and type the T cell effects, or you can isolate RNA and then type for RT transcription factors or cytokines which you want. What is the drawback from this technique when you compare it with the FACS technique?
Cytokines can also be secreted by other cells.
Yeah. You don't know where these messengers come from which cells. And you also don't know whether they are really translated to protein in the end. But we still apply a different technique, and that is a technique which is not very common and which I would like to explain to you. It's the culture skin explant technique. So what you do is you take a skin biopsy, you put it on a 3D matrix. It's a metal matrix which is coated. And what happens is that fibroblasts go out of this tissue and settle on this matrix because that's their normal response. This is what they do if there is damage. They migrate out of the tissue, go sit on this matrix and start producing chemokines, and these chemokines then attract the T cells from the skin into the matrix, and the matrix is a medium, and then the T cells fall through just on the bottom of your well. So in theory, it's a very nice method to study T cells because they are really untouched. You didn't polygonize them, which probably damages their markers. It's a very elegant technique. So here is exactly what you do. Very small skin biopsies. This is the normal side of skin biopsy, which is taken also for diagnostic things. You put them on these kind of matrices, so it's a 3D structure of metal coated with, I think it's collagen, but I'm not sure. Fibroblasts will grow on it. Here you see a staining from fibroblasts, and they cover all of these areas. The T cells fall out and fall through. Here you see in the middle of the well such a matrix with the skin biopsy lying on top of it, and the T cells really fall through on the bottom of the well. There you can collect them. So you do these cultures in a very rich medium. It's supplemented with antibiotics and antifungals. Why do you think that we have to add these reagents?
and skin.
Yeah, and source for skin, and that's not very sterile. So if you want to put something like skin in culture for 3 weeks, you really need antibiotics and antifungals. And these skin biopsies we obtained via aesthetic surgery in this phase of the project. So the questions we first had: does it work in our hands? When should we harvest the T cells? And what is the amount of cells we get from this technique, and can we then do the analysis we like? And should we or should we not add IL-2, and what would be the consequence of adding IL-2? And if you have a look at these cultures, what do you see really under the microscope? Yeah, is it clear for everyone these pictures? Because this is then the bottom of the well, where you can see all these small round dots, and these are all T cells. These are really typical T cells, so very nice rounded cells. So apparently it worked because we did get T cells from the skin in the bottom of our well. Then we tried to optimize the harvest time, and what we did for this is take 2 biopsies, more than 2 biopsies. From each subject we took 4 biopsies, and each biopsy we put on a matrix in a different well, and we collected the wells after 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, 7 or 3 weeks. This is 4 weeks already, 27 or 28 days. And at all these time points we counted the cells, and we just got an idea when we should harvest these wells. And what you can see is that in both donors, and that was also described originally by the group which published this technique, is that you have to wait for 2 weeks, and then you have the most optimal number of cells which you can collect. So 3 weeks, and we obtained then 40,000 to 100,000 lymphocyte biopsies, which we did it more than 2 times. And this is indeed a number which you can use for tags or do all kinds of analysis. So it looks like we can do it with this technique. And it is important that we have these small biopsies, because later on in patients you can't take half part of the arm to do your analysis. So there also you only have this material available. So we can't make it pretty much larger. We have to do it with these small biopsies of 4 square millimeters. In the original paper, the authors added IL-2, but what do you think, if you want to study T cell populations, would be the effect of IL-2? What is IL-2 doing?
Proliferation of naive T cells.
Proliferation of naive T cells, is that
Th1.
correct? Th1 and Th2. But is it naive cells? What is IL-2? Anyone an idea what IL-2 is for T cells?
Survival factor.
It's a survival factor, and when do they need it? After they get activated. So if T cells get activated, they start producing IL-2, but they also upregulate the receptor for IL-2. So then they can do something with the IL-2, and they survive as long as this response is there. And they proliferate indeed upon addition of IL-2. Could that be a problem in our assay if we add IL-2 and they start proliferating? Because then it would be nice, the yield is of course higher, much higher.
Yeah, if you want to say something about the balance between Th2 and Th1, then you should not add this substance.
No, that's indeed, I think you also mean that you don't know if every respective T cell population responds in the same way to IL-2. So you don't know whether the situation you create is representative of what's going on in the skin. And you want to have an idea of what happens in the skin. So you don't want to get proliferation, you just want to get the cells out. And indeed, here you can see it. The shades are from the matrix, which is lying on top of the indwell. And you can see here in medium condition, just some T cells lying around. But in medium IO2, yeah, you can easily see it. The cells are bigger, they are blastic, you call it. So they are activated cells, and they want to proliferate, and apparently they proliferated a lot because the B12 is full if you compare it with this condition. It's the same magnitude. Other things we see when we look in very early in these cultures is that you see here these nice bounded T cells also, but you also can see other cells and clusters of cells. So here you can see T cells clearly clustered with a bigger cell. And here you can also see that there is a cluster of cells. Which cells do you think these can be?
Blood cells?
Blood cells?
No, erythrocytes.
Erythrocytes? No. Erythrocytes are really smaller even than lymphocytes. So these cells are really, pretty big, and they seem to have some extensions. So what do you think about them? Yeah. So based on morphology, it could be neutrophils, but it's more likely that it's disease from the skin, because in addition to T cells, there are also a lot of disease in the skin. So we speculate indeed that this would be a T cell, these two, and this would be a DC, and here also clusters of DCs and T cells. And what do you think they are doing? Yeah, if it's DC and T cell come together. Yeah, if you think of DC and T cell, it's probably that the DC is presenting something to the T cell, and the T cell is scanning whether it wants to react to it. Is that a problem for our culture? Yeah, probably it is, because if the cell is activated, it will also start proliferating, and then we have the same problem as discussed before with IL-2. So we don't know for sure then whether this is representative of what's going on in the skin. So in these collected cells, we also had a look at proliferation, because we wanted to know with or without IL-2, is that proliferation, and then these DC T cell co-cultures, is that proliferation. So we did a T cell proliferation assay. Which one do you know? How can you measure proliferation? There are a lot of techniques.
Ki-67.
Ki-67, we saw it also in the paper of macrophages, that's a nice one. Other techniques? A technique which I talked about in the T-REC assay. How did I follow effective T cell proliferation? You weren't there? CFZ, for example, a fluorescent dye, which you can label your cells with and then follow how they divide this substance on the daughter cells, so then you can peak pattern effects. Still other techniques, CFZ, case Ki-67. Via the U. Other things? A very famous, pretty old technique, which is not so popular anymore. Thymidine incorporation. That's really the golden standard, till a couple of years ago. So, but that's radioactivity, so people would like to get rid of it, and that's why a lot of effort has been put in new techniques. But indeed, thymidine incorporation, then you need to measure the radioactivity, because this is built into the DNA. This is also a substance which is built into the DNA, but is analyzed with effects. CFSE, fluorescent dye, which is divided over daughter cells in time if they proliferate. And this one is one which we also saw in the article last week. And this is what we did. So here you see effect staining with Ki-67 in the cells collected from medium without IL-2 in the presence of where we saw all these clusters, and you see that only 2% of the cells was positive for Ki-67. So this is really a low grade background staining of Ki-67. So it appears to be that here is no proliferation going on. So how do you call it? Despite the presence of these T-cell DC clusters, we don't see proliferation, so probably it's not an activation which we see. It could be, for example, a Treg coming into contact with a DC that has been described also in the skin material, and that these Tregs are tolerizing the disease or whatever they do with each other, but it doesn't lead to T-cell proliferation. Here you see a condition with IL-2, and here it's clear that a lot of the cells are positive for Ki-67. So here, indeed, there is a lot of proliferation. So this condition we didn't like, and we went on further with the normal medium condition without IL-2. So up to now, we were pretty enthusiastic. The technique is feasible. It retrieves sufficient number of viable lymphocytes. IL-2 we should not add. And despite this cell-cell contact in the culture, we could not find evidence of T-cell activation or proliferation. So it appeared to be no problem. We expect that there is still what we find in our T-cells collected from the skin still represents what is going on. Then we did a small pilot study. We didn't have atopic dermatitis skin yet, so we went on with the material we obtained from the aesthetic surgery patients, and we looked at the composition of the T-cell population in normal, non-inflamed skin. And we wondered how this related to the peripheral blood situation. So do you see really completely different distribution of T-cells? For this, as I said, we took healthy skin, 4 from the mammary and 12 from the abdomen. All were female subjects, average age of 51, and we also obtained at the same time before we started surgery peripheral blood. And of course, to do such a study, you have to get approval from the review board of academic hospital Maastricht, and written form consent, of course. And we did a lot of facts, of course, to analyze these populations. Well, this is not my first facts, but Jacqueline's first facts. Here you can see typical forward side scatter with the position of the lymphocytes here, and the remainder again is still some other cells coming from this tissue, of course. It's not purely lymphocytes. And you can gauge, I won't bother you with how we do it, but you can gauge singlets, that you have only single cells which analyze. And then she looked for the T-cell receptor gamma delta, the majority was alpha beta, of course. And you can see here the CD8 cell, the CD4 cell. So this is an example of FACS plots, how they look if you don't. So then, if you analyze these cells we collect from these biopsies, what do you expect in skin as compared to blood with respect to the naive memory distribution? Do you think there are more memory or more naive cells in the skin, or comparable to the blood?
Naive cells.
More naive cells in the skin? Why?
Because the memory cells are all related with tissue.
Everybody agree with that? Other opinions? Normally, when do T cells get out of the blood into the tissue? When they're activated. So, and skin is also a tissue in that sense. So based on that, you would expect that there will be more memory cells, because only these cells have really the capability to enter tissues, also the skin. And what do you expect with respect to the T-rex in the skin? Higher, and why do you think? Yeah, yeah, that's indeed also what we thought. So we expected T-rex to be increased in the skin because really that's an environment where there is a lot of contact between harmless substances and your immune system. So you have to have a really tolerable environment. Yeah, sorry for what I will walk you through this table. This is the results which we found, and here you can see the ratio of CD4 cells to CD8 cells. In the blood, it's about 2.5 times more CD4s than CD8s. In the skin, it was about 3 times more CD4 than CD8, but it was not different. It was comparable. Then the naive CD4 cells, you can see that there are nearly any naive CD4 cells in the skin. And in the blood, this is apparently age dependent, but here it was 30% naive cells of the CD4s which were naive. And this was really different, so much less naive cells in the skin, and the memory cells, effector memory cells, were, as a consequence of that, of course, increased in the skin. So almost all cells which you find there are indeed a memory phenotype. So that fitted till now with expectations, and here you see T-rex, about 6% of the CD4s in the blood, and in the skin this was about 11%, is also significantly different. So these basic markers show you that the T cell population in the skin is really different from what you see in the blood. It's more enriched for memory cells and T-rex. Yeah, well, then sometimes you want to confirm some findings also with other techniques. And for this, we did an immune staining, as you can see here, for CD4s here on the left and for CD8s here on the right. And you can see indeed that there are much more CD4 T cells and CD8 T cells in the skin. Here you see hair follicle, and that's really an environment where there are more T cells and more inflammatory cells than in the other sides of the skin. So that's also what we discussed before. An important drawback is where you look at what side. And clearly more CD4s than CD8s. But then we were not still satisfied. We would like to go for further characterization of the T helper cell subsets. So we want to differentiate Th1, 2, 17, and Treg, because that would be important, of course, for atopic skin, and if you want to follow immune therapy. So then you would have to differentiate between Th1 and 2. Of course, if you expect Tregs to be induced, you also want to see them. How can you differentiate then between different T helper cell subsets? And we have now the cells, but which techniques can you apply? Faxing, and then what do you stain for then?
More receptors.
What?
More receptors.
Receptors? Which one then? CD markers, but are they different between Th1 and Th2, for example? And what is different, clearly? You could perhaps stain chemokine receptors. That has been described lately, that these subsets all express different combination of chemokine receptors that you could do, but that's not absolute. What are they clearly different in?
Specific transcription factors.
Transcription factors. For Th1, that's for example Tbet, Th2, GATA3. So each subset has its own transcription factor. You can do it with FACS or with PCR. And what can you still do?
Cytokine secretion.
cytokine secretion. So how would you do that then?
ELISA and then look to, for example, TH1 for IL-12 or interferon gamma, TH2 for IL-4.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. You can take the cells, stimulate them to produce cytokines, and then measure cytokines with ELISA. And then the typical TH1 marker is interferon gamma. The typical TH2 marker is IL-4. The typical TH17 marker is IL-17. So then you can also measure at it's population level. Then you don't know again from which cell it comes. So cytokine supernatant, you can do cytokine staining or transcription factor staining or chemokine receptor staining by FACS, and you can also do real-time PCR. ELAC spot, are you familiar with that? That's a technique where you put cells in a well and they start producing factors, and you can stain for these factors, and then you get spots in the well, which you can quantify with by eye or with a method. But it's also based on cytokine secretion by cells. And then the idea is that each spot represents one cell producing this cytokine. Well, we did FACS, of course. For this, you can not only look at surface marker, but you can also enter the cell by permeabilizing the cells. Then the antibody can enter the cell, and then you can still get these fluorescent pictures. Engaging on lymphocytes, CD3 positive. We would like to look at CD4, but because CD4 is down-regulated in the stimulation we use CD8, and then we don't go for the positive cells, but for the negative ones. So the CD3 positive, CD8 negative ones are most of them CD4 cells. And then you can get these nice pictures where you can combine for each cytokine against each other cytokine which you have in the same tube. And you can find double producers here for interferon gamma and IL-4, single producers IL-4, interferon gamma. And you can do this for every cytokine combination, and it gives you a lot of information on the cells which are present. And Jacqueline did this for skin here on the left, in each picture, blood on the right. For 6 cytokines, interferon gamma, IL-17, 4, IL-10, 22, TNF alpha. And what you can see is that for each cytokine, with the exception of interferon gamma, you see an enriched fraction of cytokine positive cells in the skin when you compare it to the blood. So there are more memory cells, and there are also more cytokine producers in the skin and in the blood. So less naive, more cytokine secreting cells, relative increase in Tregs in the skin, and relatively more IL-17, IL-4, IL-10, IL-22 positive cells in the skin. So the skin home T cell population is clearly different from the circulating population of T cells, and this she wrote down and is now submitted to experimental dermatology. The question is, this is of course a pre-study, this is not really what we had in mind, and we want to look at atopic skin and effective therapy, but this is where you start, of course. But if you have these data and you would like to measure also effects, for example, of specific immunotherapy, what would you like to measure in addition? What would you like to know more from these T cells? You have the cytokine profile, you know the phenotype. What is also important, whether they respond or not?
The antigens?
Yeah, that's indeed, I think, a very interesting thing. You would also would like to know the antigen specificity. What do they react to? And does this reaction alter after therapy? Is it diminished? Is it directed against another epitope? So you would really like to know the antigen specificity of this T cell population. And that is something you can measure in vitro, but we didn't start with that yet. So on the long term, of course, this was a healthy, non-inflamed skin, we would like to see what is going on in atopic skin. We want to monitor skin T cell populations during specific immunotherapy. This would help us also to optimize immunotherapy. And we would like to know the antigen specificity of skin T cells in atopic dermatitis, because that could also help, of course, in determining what allergen or antigen should you use for immunotherapy. And it could be perhaps helpful to quantify the therapeutic effect of other therapies which are used for atopic dermatitis or combinations of these therapies. And thank you for that.